Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as Nemanja Matic quits Manchester United, sending us into a bit of a transfer panic because now we definitely need a CDM. You could argue that we almost need two. The clear out begins. You can start to approach double figures with players, Manchester United players potentially leaving this summer. I also want to talk about a few things in relation to Ralf Rangnick and there's an update on something I've got to give you as well, which I don't really want to talk about, but I have to give you an update on that. Lots of other things as well. It is a Friday night, so we will delve into a bit of a Q&A as well. Hope you're doing very well. But look, you know what? Friday night before a game, Nemanja Matic just made a public statement, and basically, in the words of Nemanja Matic, he said this: after a great deal of thought, I've decided that this season will be my last with Manchester United. I've informed the board, the manager and players of my decision. It's been a huge honour and privilege to play for this great club. A big thank you to the fans for their unwavering support. I will now give everything until the end of the season to help my teammates finish as strongly as possible. Now, look, I think it's the right decision. I think it's a positive decision. I think it really throws shade onto Solskjaer again, to United again, and means that there is a big pressure to get the CDM right. I think, to be honest, I think this is great news. I personally would have played Matic a lot more this season. I don't understand why we've been picking Scott McTominay at centre defensive midfield. He can't play the role. Welcome to the Members Club, Connor. One thing I would say about Matic is that he's too old and clearly can't play 90 minutes. But when he has played well for United, I saw him against Everton dictating where Lindelof and Maguire need to be. He knows how to play the role. His legs just can't do it anymore. And I think that get Dychin, says Ray. And hi Mark, how do you think and make of the Premier League teams are dominating Europe? West Ham, Leicester. We'll talk about that in a bit, Mark. It's a good question. So look, in relation to Matic, I like the way that he plays in between the centre backs. I like the way he takes the ball off the back four. I like the way that he's confident on the ball and wants to take the ball. And this is completely opposite of what McTominay or Fred can do. So we've lost the only player that I think can play CDM, but for some reason this season we haven't used him anyway. So him leaving, I think, is a positive. It's a weird positive because, as I say, I think he's the only CDM that can actually do the role. But Solskjaer completely ignored him. Then Rangnick did, and I think basically it was because he couldn't play anymore. I don't think he could play longer than an hour anymore, and he's head and shoulders the best CDM we've got, and it leads to the fact that we've absolutely got to get one, and it does put pressure on United, which I'll talk about in a minute in relation to the candidates, because there's no clear obvious road to buying a CDM, which we absolutely need to do. Hi Mark, are you replacing Matic next season, says Infin. I mean, Matic may not be mobile, but he's way more mobile than I could be. So yeah, this is official. This is not from newspaper reports, it's not from Romano, it's not from David Ornstein, it's from Matic himself. He's saying that this is it, I'm leaving in the summer, and I welcome it. You know what, I think that we already know Pogba's going to go, we know Cavani's going to go, we know Lingard's going to go, we know Mata's going to go, we now know Matic is going to go, we know 5 players are definitely going, out of our control. James Jones, welcome to the Members Club. So 5 players are going: Pogba, Cavani, Lingard, Mata and Matic. 5 senior professional footballers are leaving this football club. On top of that, Eric Bailly needs to go, Henderson needs to go, Phil Jones needs to go, that's 8. Martial probably needs to go, that's 9. So 9 senior first team players going, and we need to do this, we must do, and next summer we must do it as well. So yeah, look, I'm very, very positive about it. The only thing I would say, and I do think this is worth mentioning, and maybe some of you will mention it in a bit, because I want to talk about who we replace Matic with, because I think that's the exciting part about this. But what I would say is this: Paul Pogba, Edison Cavani, Nemanja Matic, Mata, Lingard. 5 players we need to get rid of. But if I gave you those 5 names and then I said Anthony Martial, Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Fred, those 5 players are probably all going to stay. And the 5 that I mentioned, Pogba, Cavani, Lingard, Mata, Matic, are going to go. Are we actually... what I'm trying to say is we're not losing all the deadwood, are we? We're still going to be keeping some of the deadwood. I mean, I would argue that I would rather keep Pogba than keep McTominay. I would. I'll be honest with you. I would. So like we are losing players, but in some ways, are we losing the right player? I mean, look, as I said, Matic and Mata are just too old. Their mentality and experience is Matic and Mata are way better than McTominay and Fred. They're just not old. They're just too old now. Their ability and capability when they were good to play for Man United at this level, they can do that. I think there's question marks over the others as well. So look, it's good that these players are going, but we must replace them correctly because they did offer something. So Matic officially is going to go in the summer. I would also say as well, he did apparently have one more year left on his contract. So how that's been done, I don't know. Maybe he didn't have a year left on his contract. Maybe it was an option for another year that United have not taken up. I don't know. That normally is the case. But Matic is going to go. 100% Matic is going to go. Which leads on to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is they've got to get the next appointment. They've got to get the next recruitment right. I would take comfort and excitement in the fact that last season we thought we were going to buy a CDM. We didn't do it. MN says McTominay's not Deadwood. Well, it's an opinion. Welcome to the United Stand, the show where you can have an opinion. I think McTominay's shit. I think he's been shit this season. And as a CDM, we're talking about CDM here. We're not talking about whether he's a box-to-box playing out of position, whether he puts in a tackle or anything. I don't disagree with all that lot. I also agree that Rangnick likes him. Mourinho liked him, Ollie liked him, Sir Alex likes him. I'm aware of all these things, but as a centre defensive midfielder, I would rather take every centre defensive midfielder in the midfield in the league from Norwich to Newcastle. I would take their CDM over him. I think he's a dreadful centre defensive midfielder, and that's what we're talking about. So, you know, if you think I'm wrong on that, well done. I guarantee you, if I ran a poll across every club fan in the Premier League, not many people would want him. Mark, do you think Ronaldo should stay or go? I know this is a tough question to answer, says Mark. Well, could you leave it until a little bit later on then? Because I'm talking about Matic at the moment. We will come back to it. Mark, there's rumours that Ten Hag does not want Ronaldo. Okay, so we're clearly going to be talking about Ronaldo, Mark. I'd just hold off. I'd hold off and waiting until we've moved past the Matic and CDM thing, because I'm not going to wander off onto a different topic. If we keep Pogba, then there is no room for Donny, and Ten Hag will build a team around Donny, says Scottish FM. Interesting comments from Donny as well. We'll come back to that. Hi Mark from South Africa, really enjoy your content. Hope United get everything right this summer and start the proper rebuild, says Sot. And I honestly feel positive around United at the moment. Things are definitely looking up for next season, says Josh. And busy summer ahead, ins and outs. We are hearing a few bits of good news at the moment too, says Brad. And yeah, I think we will come back to Ronaldo. We will come back to the Donny thing. But just to stick with the CDM thing for a moment, and I do agree with a couple of comments there, it is really, really positive around United at the moment. Now, Ten Hag is a very positive, but things are starting to happen. Like, I actually like that. Somebody said, Matic announcing it now, what's he doing? That'll just cause trouble. Matic has already said, look, I'll give everything until the end of the season. He's probably looking for another contract. So I think this benefits us. Matic probably doesn't want to retire. He probably wants to go and play somewhere. So he's going to play tomorrow, isn't he? He might finish the season off really well. I hope that this can go the right way. I think the Pogba thing's gone the wrong way. I hoped Pogba was going to play really well between now and the end of the season, and it hasn't quite worked. But with Matic, there's no prospect of us giving him a new contract. There's no point at his age. So Matic hopefully isn't going to retire. Hopefully he's going to go somewhere else, and therefore he'll be focused. What's more important, what's positive for me is that, as I said, we wanted to buy a CDM last summer as a fan base. Many people felt we wanted a CDM and we didn't get one. We've absolutely 100%. You can just sit here and know we're going to buy a CDM this summer, and that to me is really positive because we've needed one for a while. We're absolutely going to sign one. Now, many people would have said, well, we're always going to sign one anyway, but were we? Why? We didn't buy one last season. We only had McTominay, Fred and Matic. If Matic had been staying for another year, are you sure we would have bought one? They might have brought Garner back and said he can be understudy to McTominay. With Matic going, 100% we're buying a CDM now. I think we were anyway, but we know we're buying one now. So they've got to get it right. They have to get it right. They all like Scotty because he's a good lad, says Nate. Yeah, well, good lads don't win your titles. They also have to be talented as well. So yeah, we've got to get this absolutely correct now, and I suppose people will start thinking about who we're going to go for. Love the Donny quote. Sounds like Ten Hag will hold players accountable. We're going to talk about that, Oz. Good point. Thanks for the super chat. So I think realistically, Declan Rice is United's priority. We've heard about Calvin Phillips. We've heard about Tchouaméni today. We know about Ruben Neves. There are options that Manchester United can go for in that CDM position, but what they have to do, 100% have to do, is they've got to go and get the right man. And they've got to know who they're going to get. What we cannot do with this position, because it's such an important one, we need good replacements for those leaving, says Tyrese, exactly, is they've got to get this right. Now, Tchouaméni, someone said, is there any news on Tchouaméni? Well, there is. There's something come out tonight that Real Madrid are interested, but he's not in advanced talks with them. It's well known that he'd like to play in the Prem. What United need to do, and they really need to be A class at this. They've got to be elite at this, because we're dealing with clubs that are better than us in the transfer market traditionally. So we've got to be better than them. We've got to go to Tchouaméni and find out if we're being played. We've got to go to Declan Rice and find out if we're being played. We've got to go to Calvin Phillips and find out if we're being played. We've got to go to Ruben Neves and find out if we're being played. Because if we're going to hang in for Declan Rice but he's just waiting for Chelsea, we're wasting our time. If we're hanging in for Tchouaméni but he really wants to go to Real Madrid or Chelsea, we're wasting our time. If we're after Calvin Phillips and he really wants to stay at Leeds and doesn't want to come to United, we're wasting our time. We've got to find a player that Ten Hag wants, that is right for us, that wants to come to United, and then we need to know now who our replacement, who our CDM is going to be. It's difficult, but we need to find out as soon as possible, because what we cannot do is go into the summer transfer window thinking, well, we'll get Declan Rice if no one else wants him, but what if Chelsea want him? Or well, then we'll go for Tchouaméni. We need a clear plan here. We know what the project is. These people, we need 2 CDMs, says Vinit. Well, I personally think we do need 2 CDMs, but they might be looking at Ghana, I suppose. But I think we need 2, because if the one you buy gets injured, then you're in trouble, aren't you? But we've got to find out. We've got to sell the project, and we've got to find out a player that wants the job. And what I would say is, and I would be this blunt, if you approach Tchouaméni and he's uncommitted, and you approach Declan Rice and he's uncommitted, but Ruben Neves says, I want to come and play for Man United, go and buy Ruben Neves. Just do it, because you know what I mean? It's like we haven't got time to go into this summer and be waiting on people who are unsure. Our project is this. Erik Ten Hag is in charge. This is a 3-year project to get United back where they need to be, and we're probably going to be in the Europa League. That's the project. Do you want it or not? Well, I want to see if Chelsea want me or not. Fine, fuck off. Wait for Chelsea. We're going to move on to the next target, because there's 2 reasons for that. 1, we can't afford to wait and be second best, and 2, this is the project. You either want the project or you don't, and if you're waiting, you clearly don't want the project. And I know that might mean you don't get your Tchouaméni or you don't get your Declan Rice, but you do get the player that wants to be here, and that is probably worth more than spending a lot of money on a player that's here because of the money. So I think we need to find out very quickly the players that Erik Ten Hag wants, especially the CDM, and move for it. And there are options out there. I mean, I guarantee you Konrad Laimer will come from Leipzig. We could get 2. I personally think you could get 2. Konrad Laimer and maybe somebody else. And Yuri Tillemans maybe, or someone like that. But we need a specialist CDM. Or if we're not going to get a specialist CDM, and I think one thing I did want to add here is that everyone's going, who's the CDM? Who's the CDM going to be? We need a CDM. What if we don't need a CDM? What if we need 2? What if we're going to play a 4-2-3-1? What if we're going to play with symmetry? What if we're going to say, when you're going forward, you sit back, and when you go forward, you sit back? If you're going to do that, you could play, look, it's a massive adaptation, but you could buy Lemar and Tillemans. They could do that role, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Yes, Tillemans plays with Ndidi who sits, but maybe we play with 2, back and forth, because to be honest with you, Fred would be a good backup for that off the bench. We really need reliability. We need the right CDM, says Matty Ross, and we've struggled to control games of football for years. Ruben Neves could be Modric elect, but Wolves might take the piss with the price, says David. Well, yeah, but to be honest though, Wolves don't really take the piss with the price though, do they? The price they got for Jota was very reasonable. I don't think they necessarily would take the piss. But all in all, Matic, if you're tuning in a little bit late, Matic has officially announced that he's going to leave Manchester United this summer. And all in all, I think that it's a positive bit of news. We've got to beat Norwich tomorrow, we all know that, but there's a lot of things just trickling through on positivity around United at the moment, and I think Matic saying he's going, many of us would agree that that's the right thing to do, but we were going to go into the summer not knowing. I mean, he's got 1 year left on his deal. Oh, he's still going to be here then, isn't he? It's another player, it's another wage. Matic has just saved us 400 grand a month. He's gone. He's going in the summer. That's another wage gone. It's another position gone. It's another player that's past it gone. I think Matic's career at United's been okay. At times it's been good, at times it's been a bit poor. But it was time to go. We know he's going. And again, it's just another thing that you can't moan about. We know Pogba's going. We know Cavani's going. We know Lingard's going. We know Mata's going. We now know Matic is going. They're nailed on going. and they need replacing in one way or another. I see this as a positive. We know Erik ten Hag's going to be our manager. We know Matic is going to go. Let's get moving. I feel quite positive. Wouldn't be surprised if Carrick is the plan B, says Sean O'Rourke. And I think that, you know, what's also important to consider is that we are going to see a massive revamp in Season 1 and in Season 2. Season 2 will be next summer. But this summer, we're going to see a lot of change. We're going to see... I mean, look, that there are players there that are going to go. 100%. As we know, the 5 players that I've just named. But there will be other players. Eric Bay's going to knock on the door and say, can I go? And I think we should let him go. I think Martial's going to knock on the door and say, can I go? And we should go. I do think we've got to let Dean Henderson go. I know some people think Dean Henderson might have a chance under Erik ten Hag, but have you thought it through? I don't think it's. I think there's a bit of money there, and I don't think David De Gea is sellable. So I think in the short term you stick with De Gea, you sell Henderson, and you stick with Heaton, and you make a bit of money off Henderson, and maybe in a year or two you let Ten Hag bring in the goalkeeper that he wants. I think we'll be all right with David De Gea next season. We're not going to be winning the title next year. I think David De Gea for the next 2 years in goal is absolutely fine. And then maybe in year 3 you do bring in this goalkeeper. But I don't think we need to replace the goalkeeper and cause that upheaval this summer, because that upheaval means selling De Gea, which is going to be very difficult in the first season. So I just think Henderson's a player that needs to go as well, for himself and for the club. You know, and then, what did I say? Martial as well. We could move 8, 9, 10 players on this summer, and that is really exciting. I don't think we should be. I don't think anybody is. I don't think the club. I don't think the coaches. I don't think the fans are nervous about this. I think they embrace it. But moving on 8, 9, 10 players, maybe more. We shouldn't be scared of that. This squad needs breaking up. I think if Jurgen Klopp or Tuchel or Pep or Arteta were going to get rid of 9 or 10 players this summer, you'd go, fucking hell, what are they doing? But this team needs breaking up. Nobody can moan about it. It needs breaking up because they've not performed very well. And I think that ultimately we should embrace that, because the quicker we break it up and the higher volume that we break it up, we know we're starting next season from almost a standstill anyway. Well, not a standstill. We're starting next season from day one. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, look, what I'm trying to say is if we've got 25 players at the moment that are first team players, yeah, and we replace 10 of them, what upheaval does that cause when it's a brand new manager coming in on day one anyway? The only upheaval it causes is for the fans and the current squad. Oh, we've replaced 10 players, but we'd be excited about that. So I think yeah, I'm all for this. Get out as many as you can. You can't get rid of 15 to 20 players, but we can get rid of 10. And I think we need to do that. Swift and smart is what United need this summer, says Tyrese. Yes. Yeah, if 10 players go, you've got to bring 5 in. And then, you know, bring through a few youth players as well. Definitely, Tyrese. Yes, definitely. The best... move on. De Gea, no, I'm not really. If you're going to say something good, you're not going to get read out if you say something absolutely shit. I agree with what Rambier says, though. 4 to 5 signings and 4 to 5 academy players. Yeah, and that's the way to go, because what's really important is, and before we move on to the next section, is that what is abundantly clear to me is this is very exciting. It's going to be a rebuild, and I don't think we've seen anything like this for a few years now, where we're going to clear out 8, 9, 10 players, bring in 4 or 5 signings, and then open up the doorway to some of the youth. Now, I've been on about this for a while. I know many of you have been on about it as well. When you see Juan Mata or Jesse Lingard in the matchday squad, you know it's a waste of time. Lingard's leaving, Mata's past it. That's 2 spots that they're not exciting. They're not going to do anything. Even if they come on and score a goal, there's no future in it. Now, you take Mata and Lingard out of that squad, which we're going to, and you bring in Hannibal Mabry, Alanga, whoever. Well, that's exciting, because they're young players who can get an opportunity, and all right, they might not do well. We might end up selling them. They might end up not making it. Bring another 2 in. We've got to have there's not been a path to the first team. and we have to develop that path to the first team. So I think it's a real big positive as well. And also, as part of what Erik ten Hag's going to do, we will have the Carabao Cup next season, Europa League football, hopefully. I know that sounds bad, but hopefully. So yeah. Hi Mark, have you seen Garnacho in the squad? This is Toby, MUFC. I am very, what's the word? Hi Mark, have you seen Garnacho in the squad? Says Toby. I'm very much like this when it comes to the youth. I'm very patient with it. You know, I've defended people like Chong and Alanga many times over the last couple of years where they have a bad game and people start saying the shit. The benefit of experience is that I do remember Nicky Butt, David Beckham, Paul Scholes, Gary Neville, Kieran Richardson, Chris Eagles, you know, many others that sort of came through the team, and some made it and some didn't. But no youth player, with the exception of probably Ryan Giggs, and even then he was on and off. But no youth player ever really in my lifetime has come into the youth team and hit the ground running week in, week out. It's been a slow build. It's been, oh, they look half decent. Oh, that was good. You know, so you've got to be like that. You have to be like that. You've got to be patient with the youth. And it really pisses me off when I see people sort of saying about Alanga, oh, he's not this, he's not that. And then he'll score a goal and, oh, he's going to be the next Ronaldo. And it's like, it will be like that with the youth. That's what it'll be like. But one of the things I've always said as well is, you can mention any young player to me that's doing well in the youth setup, and I genuinely don't care, because until they hit the first team, there's no point. You can score hat-tricks every week in the youth setup and end up playing at, you know, Rochdale. You can score one goal a game in the youth setup and end up being United's next striker. Rashford wasn't predicted to be great from the youth. McTominay wasn't predicted to be great from the youth, and yet they are two of the youth success stories of the last 5 years. So I think there's a lot of exciting players at Manchester United coming through, and people talk about Charlie McNeil as a young striker. Not as many people talk about Joe Hugel, but it might be Hugel that actually makes it. So you just don't know until they make the first team. But we have got a lot of talent, and I think with Erik ten Hag in charge, then there is going to be opportunities there. Do you really think the Glazers will finance 4 or 5 players for ten Hag based on 17 years track record, says Andy and Bruno? That's a great question, Andy and Bruno. And I'm just about to talk about Donny's comments in a moment, but I will answer that one first. I think with... I heard Andy Mitten mention it, and I heard Chris Wheeler in the Mail mention that if United aren't in the Champions League, there'll be a reduced transfer budget. But this is not true. This is just not true. And also it's not quantifiable, because you only know what your budget is in what you're in. Like, so if we're in the Europa League and we spend 100 million, we'll never know whether we would have spent 150 million in the Champions League. And vice versa. If we're in the Champions League and we spend 100 million, we might have spent 150 if we'd been in the Europa League. So for one, it's not quantifiable anyway. But for two, the evidence is there that we spend more when we're in the Europa League than we do in the Champions League. So I've heard people say this, and I don't know whether I agree with it, but I think it is a reality. So maybe it makes it a bit more agreeable. We are going to be in the Europa League, most likely, hopefully. I don't want to not be in the Europe at all. And when you look at every year we've been in the Europa League, the Glazers have spent more money because they're terrified of being... Man United can basically afford to be out of the Champions League one season. We've never been out of the Champions League for 2 seasons, and the reason for that is because we normally spend a lot in the summer that we're in the Europa League to make sure we're back in the Champions League, because there's a lot of sponsors that we have had in the past whereby they'll stomach 1 year out of the Champions League, but if there's 2, there's penalties and reductions and things like that. And also, you're not that attractive to new sponsors if you're not in the Champions League. So what United would normally do is, if we were in the Champions League under Solskjaer, they might have spent another 80 million this summer. With Ten Hag in the Europa League and a new manager, they'll probably give him 150. So we will spend money. How we spend it's going to be very interesting, because if you think about the last time we were in this situation, it was Solskjaer's first summer, and we did spend about 150 million, but we spent it on Wan-Bissaka, Dan James and Harry Maguire. Probably the worst 150 million pounds we've ever spent. Yeah, it is, isn't it? 150 million pounds on Harry Maguire, Wan-Bissaka and Dan James. I mean, bloody hell. You'd get You'd get change out of 50 million, I think, at the moment for those three, but maybe not quite. But is Calvin Phillips good enough to control a game? I thought he was functional beside Rice in the Euros, says David Salter. Well, it's interesting because I think Calvin Phillips would be better in a two. Ideally, Lema and Tchouaméni, we need two defensive-minded players, not half and halves like Fred. Garner can't play as a single DM, even though he plays alongside Yates, a defensive box-to-box, says Shauna. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know why people are taught. I've said this a couple of days ago, and I'll say it to you again. I don't know why people are obsessed with us buying a holding centre defensive midfielder. We certainly need to buy somebody who can do that, but it doesn't mean we'll play like that. We might play with a two. We might well play with a two. 7 players leaving. I think there'll be more than 7, mate. I think we'll see more than 7 go this summer. There's 5 definitely gone. Pogba, Cavani, Lingard, Mata and Matic are definitely gone. So you're saying we're only going to sell 2 more? I can see 10, maybe more going. So yeah, Basuma is an option. Anyway, let me just talk to you about this. I want to talk to you about this. This is really interesting. This is coming from the Mirror. Donny van der Beek has been contacted by various Manchester United players about Erik ten Hag as a coach. The midfielder has described training as on a different level with Erik ten Hag. He's a perfectionist who does one-on-one training with players, even controlling their diets. It sounds like a one strike and you're out policy. Donny van der Beek has warned Man United players that they're in for a shock when Erik ten Hag takes charge. Good. Absolutely good. I think we would all agree with that, wouldn't we? Absolutely fantastic. This is what we need. This is what we need. We need professionalism. I remember talking about this after the Liverpool game back in October, when we got embarrassed and there was a lot of angry fans, and it was like, we need a complete reset. The players need the biggest kick up their arse of their career. Their careers need to be on the line, and these little cliques need to be destroyed. And basically, if you're not part of this, you kick them out. What actually happened is we brought an interim coach in, which gave the players even more freedom because they knew that this interim was not going to be able to make big decisions. They became even more complacent, even more lazy, and even more up their own arse. What's going to happen this summer is they're going to pay for their crimes. They're going to pay for the fact that they've been lazy shits this season. They're going to pay for the fact that they're up their own arse, and they're going to pay for the fact that they think that they can get away with what they want. And what's going to happen is it's going to be a reality bite because they've not worked hard this season. So they're not even coming from a position where they were working hard. They're coming from a position where they've been taking the piss. So they're going to come back from their little holidays, and they're going to realise this ain't the club I left behind. It will be a big kick up the arse. And the best thing is, Donny van der Beek will be there working his arse off, and 4 or 5 new signings will be there. So straight away, there's going to be a core of at least six players working their arse off. So these little cliques that think they run the club are going to be in for a real shock. And good. And hopefully it will make them play better. And hopefully it will sort them out. But it needs to happen. They need to be told what to eat. They need to be told how they're going to train. They need to be told when they're not doing things right. And we need this. This is what happens at Liverpool. It's what happens at Chelsea. And it's what happens at Manchester City. But unfortunately, Manchester United has turned into a bit of a theme park where, you can miss training today. We need you for a photograph. Winning team bullshit. All this crap. I'm sure it will continue, but it will continue in a different way. So yeah, I'm very positive about that. And I don't know whether Donny van der Beek's going to be a success. There'll be people saying, is Donny van der Beek going to be a success? I don't know. Nobody knows that, but he will be given an opportunity. Good. This group had their chance and unfortunately did not work out. Time for a major shift with Erik ten Hag, says Kia. Yeah, I completely agree. And as well, I was thinking about this the other day actually. Let's not forget, if you, I don't think anybody needs reminding about where the blame lies for this season. It completely sits with the players. They've been absolutely embarrassing. The trust in a lot of these players is gone. It's going to take them a long time to build it back because they've let the fans down. They've let the club down this season time and time again. But one of the big things that I think jumps out is that if you look at Ralf Rangnick, he came into this club and it wasn't a myth. It wasn't like, oh, we've heard this, but it might not be true. Ralf Rangnick's style of football is very much high tempo, move the ball forwards, relentless pressing. That's what his career has always been about. That's what his ideologies have always been about. He basically came into Manchester United, tried to get us to play that way, and then admitted defeat and was like, they can't do it. I'm going to come up with a little bit of a similar thing to what Solskjaer does and just let them do what they're comfortable with. Ralf Rangnick basically stopped as, we don't press. You watch United, we don't press. We literally do not press. And that's such a damning indictment on these players that Ralf Rangnick, who is, some would say, the godfather of pressing in many ways, certainly in the German arena, came into Man United with the intention of making us a high-energy pressing side and then realised we ain't got the players for it. That conversation will be going on with Erik ten Hag, 100%. It's like, because the interesting thing from that is that with Erik ten Hag, with Ralf Rangnick, he came in and tried to get these players to play this way and then realised he couldn't do. And because he's an interim coach and he's only here for a short time, his job was actually to get us top four. So he had a decision to make. Do I keep trying to get them to play the way they can't, or do I try and get results? And he tried to get results. And then he found out that these players are just shit at anything. But he definitely couldn't get us to play the football that we wanted to play. Erik ten Hag's not going to come in the summer and go, these players can't play the way I want to play, so I'm going to play like Solskjaer did. He's going to come in and go, I'm the permanent manager here. If you can't play the way I want you to play, piss off. I want players who can. So the bigger control that Ten Hag is going to have is going to make a massive difference. But let's not forget, he's not going to be able to turn all these players into players that play the style of Ajax, because, as Ralf Rangnick has seen, they can't do it. And I think the conversation between Ralf Rangnick and Erik ten Hag is going to be very interesting when it takes place, because Ralf Rangnick will be able to sit down and go, look, I came into this club and I wanted to play this way. They can't do it. These players probably could be coached to do it, but they've got to be willing. These players didn't want to do it. These players can't do it. There's my little tips. You might want to be doing this, this and this. This is the epic good riddance to bad rubbish we are waiting for. TalkSport even mentioned that Ten Hag is furious with our scouting setup, says Sahaj. And ideally, Lema and Tchouameni, we need two defensive-minded players, not half and halves. No, we've done that one from Sean already. Thank you very much for the super chats there. Thanks for anyone who's become a member tonight, by the way. You can do that by clicking the join button. I've also pinned it in the top of the chat for you. I am going to get another poll going in the community tab for the members so they can vote on the next exclusive video. But thanks everyone who's joined, and hope he can bring some players from Ajax too, says Jay. I'm not really that bothered about whether he brings in players from Ajax, to be honest. I'm really not. I do like the look of Timber, and I do like the look of Anthony. But to be honest with you, if you said, do you want Timber or Torres? I would take Torres, because I think he'd come in and be ready, and he's, you know, left-sided centre back. And if somebody said to me, do you want Anthony or do you want Nkunku? You know, I think I'd probably go for Nkunku, to be honest. Do you think that we'll sell Scott McTominay, says George? I think McTominay, Rashford, Fred, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, those 5 players will all be here next season. They're probably players that might not be here in 2 years. Some of them will, but I think they will be given another year because they're just very difficult to sell for many different reasons. A couple of them because the club desperately don't want to sell them. They won't be able to play the Ajax way, Mark. Those players start at the age of 7, says Gaza. Yeah, but Liverpool play the Klopp way. They didn't start at 7, did they? Good players can be coached into systems, and that's what we'll be looking to do. I just wanted to mention as well, whether people like it or not, Mason Greenwood was trending on Twitter again today. Some stupid prats, and there are some stupid prats on Twitter who seem to keep doing this all the time. They've decided that Mason Greenwood's back in training and he should be given another chance. Just be careful what you're reading on Twitter, because he's not back in training. I don't know why it keeps trending. It generates a lot of upset online. People start arguing with each other. Some people are saying, why do you want him back in the team after what he's done and everything like this and the other. I think the way most of our community's dealt with it, and certainly the way I've approached it, is that he's not back in training, not likely to be back in training anytime soon, and the decision on whether he'll play for Man United or not would be a very big decision if it ever happened. But at the moment, it's not a decision, because he's under police investigation and he's never going to be playing for Manchester United whilst he's under investigation for those serious offences. And I think all I would say is that fans need to stop talking, keep the name out your mouth. Like, what's the point? What is the point? You know nothing about the case. You've got absolutely no idea what's going on. You don't need to be acting like you're the judge and saying, I think we should be giving him another chance. You don't know what's going on. But absolutely factually, he's not back in training with Manchester United at the moment, and he's not likely to be. So I don't know why people keep talking about it, but that is the latest news on that, as confirmed by Simon Stone this evening. Ronaldo. Viva Ronaldo. I said I'd come back to that point. So, do I think Erik ten Hag wants Ronaldo out of the team? I mean, I even heard Piers Morgan on about this. Ian Rooney, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Thanks for joining, mates. We are going to see a few people blocked in the chat for a start. We are going to see lots of stories about Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, because Cristiano Ronaldo is United's best player, and I think that what I'm noticing at the moment is that you've got the Ronaldo out brigade who love the prospect that he might not be part of the future at Manchester United. Manchester United's financial situation and commitment to Cristiano Ronaldo is huge. It's huge. And Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't make his decision until the summer anyway. Manchester United cannot knock on Ronaldo's door or ring him up and say, we're selling you this summer. Who's going to buy him? United haven't got the power in this situation. Ronaldo will look at it in the summer, and if there is an offer on the table that suits both parties, he might go. But you can always tell when a story is tinged with bullshit when you start reading things like Ten Hag wants Ronaldo out of the club. Because that's not, again, it's not possible. You can't go, get Ronaldo out of the club, I don't want him here. Your wish is our command. Anything more? United aren't a genie, and they're not geniuses. They can't do that. So if I'm the board member or whoever, and Erik ten Hag says to me, get rid of Ronaldo, I say, well, why? I just don't think he's the right sort of player for me. So you don't think one of the world's best number 9s is the right player for you? No. Okay. He's only here for another year. You're not winning the title next year. Why would you not want to use him for a year? You've been using Sebastian Haller at Ajax. This is Cristiano Ronaldo. It's 1 year. We're not expecting you to win the league next year. You're doing a rebuild, aren't you? Surely Ronaldo for a year you can use. And that's where the logic really resides, isn't it? Erik ten Hag is not telling United to get rid of Ronaldo because he can't. Because they can't. He'll use him for a year at Man United next season, and I think he'll do well. But Ronaldo is a Man United player, and he's going to be a United player next year unless Ronaldo finds something that's better than staying at United for another year, which I think he'll struggle to do. So I don't think there's a story. I think it's a silly story. I think it's a bit like saying, let's sell Harry Maguire this summer. Who's going to buy him? Who's going to buy an £80 million player on 200 grand a week this summer who's had a bad season? Nobody. He's our problem, and we will be stuck with him next season, and hopefully he'll improve. And the same with Ronaldo in a very different way. Who is going to buy Cristiano Ronaldo on over £500,000 a week and give us 20 million as well? No one. So I don't see it. Mark, do you think Maguire would be a positive influence on the squad if he was highly likely stripped of the captaincy, says Sahaj? The captaincy does need to change, and I think it's a great question. The captaincy does need to change, but it might not change. Who would be a captain next year? You're very unlikely to buy a captain, so who's the captain next year? For me, it should be Ronaldo for a year, but and then you bring somebody in who can be the captain long term. But United need to start buying some leaders as well. Nick says, I think Ten Hag would love to use Ronaldo as a model of how players under him should commit to being great footballers. Look, you know what? There's so much contradiction in everything, and as I said, I don't really care what Ten Hag does next year. If he decides to not pick Ronaldo or not pick David De Gea or not pick Marcus Rashford or any other player that I really like, then I don't really care because he's the manager. But Nick makes a great point there. We're talking about what Donny van der Beek has said about diet, coaching, professionalism, and who's the player that's got all that 10 times better than anyone at United? It's Cristiano Ronaldo. I think he's either a hero or a villain for some people in football. But one thing that you cannot ever level at him is that his dedication work rate is bigger than anybody's, because he wouldn't be playing football at this level if he wasn't like that. You could never say that Ronaldo's not putting the work in, because that's how he's still playing at this level. So I think people are looking at this the wrong way. I think people are saying, oh, Erik ten Hag doesn't want Cristiano Ronaldo. I think it's more about whether Ronaldo wants Erik ten Hag and Man United, because if he does want to stay here for another year, he's a massive, massive person to have on board, because the way he trains, the way he wants to win, is really important. Hope you're doing well, Mark. Do you think Ten Hag would be more versatile with positions with different players, e.g. Lindelof as a CDM, says Ethan? I knew someone was going to ask that at some point. Well done, Ethan. You've won the prize. You'll go down in history. Ethan's the first person to mention whether Erik ten Hag will use Victor Lindelof as a CDM. Every other bloody fan's done it with every other manager. I don't think so. I don't know. Ronaldo out Brigade can do one. Ronaldo is a club legend, says Andy and Bruno. And hi Mark, I'm a steward at Anfield and was watching Nunez versus Liverpool. He tracked back, pressed a lot and was very direct and positive when going forward, says TL. Welcome to the Members Club, Charles. And look, that could happen next season. As soon as I was reading that from TL, welcome to the Members Club, Charles Guppy, by the way. As soon as reading that about Nunez, I was like, that could happen next season. We might buy a Nunez and keep a Ronaldo, and Nunez keeps Ronaldo out of the team a lot. That could happen next season. But I do think Ronaldo around the team next season is important. But I don't know. The only way that Ronaldo will leave is if he's got a better way back into the team, isn't it? A better option out there. And I don't know that he has. I really don't know that he has. So, it's good that we have a coach in place to control the team now and other things, says Muscle too. Well, United made a massive mistake with this interim coach, didn't they? Let's be honest. Ski says he's new and loving the show. Thank you very much. Oh, there was something else I was going to say and I've completely forgotten. I've forgotten what it was. Ten Hag wants Rooney as a coach, says David Sykes. I really hope that we don't do that. I don't. Hey, that reminds me actually. Big shout out to the United Stand regular, Reading manager, ex-United player, Paul Ince. Massive win against Sheffield United today. I know a lot of you will be very happy because you know Ince from the show. And big win for them today. And basically, he's gone into Reading. And I think he's going to keep him up. Very, very good result for Reading today. And big shout out to Ince. He's doing really well. Might end up with a big job. Might end up at Burnley. Imagine that. Dyche gets the sack. Ince goes in. I'll be his assistant. What a dream team that would be. Absolutely fantastic that would be. We'd love it. We'd love it like that. But no, big shout out to him. He really does. He's done a great job there. Manchester United are watching River Plate midfielder Enzo Fernandez. United scouts saw him against... okay, that's coming in. I'm just reading that. United want 2 midfielders this summer. I mean, look, that's just literally coming in from the Mail. That we've mentioned Enzo Fernandez before. He's been floating around a lot, Enzo Fernandez. And I really am reluctant to talk about him. River Plate, Argentinian, CDM, 22. I'm always reluctant to talk about South American centre defensive midfielders because they... not South American players linked to United, because we were linked to Jesus and he went to Man City. We were linked to Firmino and he went to Liverpool. We were linked to Fabinho, he went to Liverpool. We were linked to Alvarez, he's gone to Man City. I don't ever believe it when we get linked to South Americans because they always end up going to Liverpool or Man City. So he looks good, but I can't be asked to spend any time on him because we'll probably just miss out on it. As for the second part of the story, it wasn't a mistake getting Ralph. Without him, we don't get these structure changes and we probably don't get Ten Hag, says Joshu. And I think with 2 midfielders, I've heard that United want 2 midfielders quite a lot. It's almost spooky seeing United do the right thing, says Ash. Yeah, look, I can't argue about that. I will talk about the midfielders. I can't argue about the fact that for the first time in a long time, I do feel quite positive about United. Even the Norwich game tomorrow, I'm quite looking forward to the fact that if we can win, I'm just... Look, expectations are really low at the moment, but beyond the summer, they're quite high. Not in the sense that I think we'll finish in the top 4, but I think we're heading in the right direction. And maybe we have a good couple of cup runs next year. I think the cups are going to be really important next year. And also, my expectations are that because we're getting Ten Hag, we must get Europa League football. I think 3 weeks ago, I was like, who's the fucking manager going to be? And we better get Champions League football. Whereas, I think I realise these players are a bunch of jokers and they're not good enough for Champions League football. So this season, for me, we don't deserve Champions League football. So I'm like, we'll salvage Europa League football and then we start again in the summer with most of you lot out and new players in and a new manager in. And that is a positive. So, Matic basically leaving as well. I think it's another positive. We're clocking up the numbers. We already know 5 or 6 players are gone before the season's even ended. If that can move up to 7, 8, 9, 10 players, it's like, fucking hell, we're getting rid of 10 players. This is great news with a new manager coming in. This is really big. Because sometimes a new manager comes in and you don't get rid of anybody. So to know that a new manager's coming in and to know that we're going to lose 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players, this is really positive stuff. I mean, look, all right, they're going to start rebuilding the stadium. That's great. I know there's still conversations about the share scheme and everything like that. We'll have to wait and see. But ultimately, for most fans, it's about what you're doing on the pitch. And good to see Garnacho in the squad for tomorrow, says Lee Taylor. Yep, it is good news. But I do feel positive about it. And I know some people just don't. But I'm telling you now, and I'll say it again, and I've not had a drink all week because I'm not well. So I'm not being influenced by alcohol or anything else. Maybe paracetamol from my headaches and my sore throats. But the reality is, I genuinely... I'm surprised that they've appointed Erik Ten Hag. I'm genuinely excited. And I really thought they were going to go with Pochettino. The more conversations I have, I was speaking to somebody about 8 days ago. That's very accurate. Last week then. And they were like, you know what? There was a lot of people thought that Poch was going to get the job in the media, around the club. They thought it was going to be Poch because people were pressuring for Poch who normally get their own way. And they didn't. So it's a new direction by the club and they know they've got to take a new direction. And I can say that categorically to you. The club know they've got to take a new direction. I think under Woodward, the attitude was very my way and stubborn, and I think that already we're starting to see that under Arnold there is potentially a more open-minded view of what's going on, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. As for whether we'll get 2 midfielders or not, look, Pogba's going and Matic is going, so if 2 go out, 2 come in. Potentially. I think we need to buy 5 players. If we're going to buy 5 players, centre-back, 2 midfielders, striker, right winger. I'd like to get 6 and get a right back, but I can't see us getting a right back because we've got Delo and Wan-Bissaka. So 5 players in is what we're going to need to do. So maybe we do get 2 midfielders. Matic is leaving in the summer, it's official, yes. Erik Ten Hag was brutal in his assessment of our recruitment, transfers and running of the club, says Sally Devil Red 7. Who do you want as CDM to replace Matic, Mark? I like Tchouaméni. I think I would liken. I think it's a very similar situation here. There's 3 scenarios and they're all very similar. You've got the Poch way and you've got the Ten Hag way. You've got the Rice way, you've got the Tchouaméni way, you've got the Kane way, you've got the Nunez way. And all 3 of those, I go Ten Hag, Tchouaméni, Nunez. That doesn't mean that Poch, Rice and Kane are bad choices, but I think Poch, Rice and Kane are very old United choices, whereby we're going for things that are very expensive, Premier League proven, Whereas I think we've done that before and it's not worked. I think Ten Hag, Tchouaméni, Nunez, all the right age profile in relation to their careers, and exciting, and just the right choices for me. So I would go Tchouaméni. I mean, look, if Tchouaméni goes to Chelsea, it probably opens up the Rice door to Manchester United. I can't see Chelsea getting Tchouaméni and Rice. Hi, do you like having... I don't know what that is, Ian. And Hayden, welcome to the Members Club. We need a CDM. We'll get a CDM. Don't worry about that. But the interesting thing for me is, if you don't get Tchouaméni and you don't get Rice, who do you go for? And if I've got to be completely honest, if it was last summer when we'd finished second and we're in the Champions League, I would be sat on this show going, we're Manchester United, we're in the Champions League, we finished second in the league, we've got to close the gap on Man City, you go and get Declan Rice or you go and get Tchouaméni. And if we don't get it, the board's shit. And I would have said that a year ago, because the scenario is the only reason we wouldn't get them is because we're shit. This summer, Tchouaméni and Rice, we might not get them because the board's shit, but also we're not in the Champions League. And that makes it more difficult. So they're going to have to work really hard. I wouldn't go for Kamara. I don't think we're going to look at Kamara. I think Basuma is interesting, Savage. I don't know. The thing about Basuma is United haven't really pushed through on that. So I don't know why. I don't know whether that court thing that he had in January is still holding over him. Lema is very good, Florence, but he's not a holding midfielder. Paulina at Sporting Lisbon is good. I think he's the sort of player that Pep would sign. You know, I don't think, look at what he did with Rodri, but I don't know whether United are looking at him. Neves is good. There's no doubt about it. Yuri Tillemans is good. There's no doubt about that. Calvin Phillips. Look, the thing about Calvin Phillips, Lema, Tillemans, the thing about all these players is that I don't know whether they hold the midfield on their own at Man United. And that is why I wouldn't be too obsessed with one holding midfielder to hold the midfield. You know, we're not looking for Gandalf to hold back the Balrog in the Halls of Moria. We can have two, and it might suit Ten Hag's system better to have two, because he sort of does that with Ajax. Two players might be quite interesting. Bear with me 1 minute. I am still here. I've just got a noisy visitor that I've got to go and get away. It's called a cat. It's that time of year. Cats are in and out, and he comes in and he starts wanting to come in. So I had to just go and put him away. Hypothetical open checkbook. Who are your 4 or 5 players? Says Ray. I like that, and it's brilliant for a Friday night, and we can all play this game. So Zuma Bridge. No, not like that. No. So Mark, in 6 weeks, will you answer that? Yes, in 6 weeks. If I'm not the sort of person, if anyone watches my FIFA career mode, if I've got 200 million, I won't go and spend it on Mbappe. I try and keep things... whenever I've played computer games, I always try and keep it relatively realistically. I had a mate at school who would just be, I don't care. It's a computer game, I don't want to be realistic. Yeah, but you can't have Ronaldo playing for Newcastle. You probably can now, but... so, look, my realistic summer transfer window for Manchester United, if I had my way. So I probably would go for Timber from Ajax, because I think we'd get him for about 30. So I go Timber, I'd go Tchouaméni, which I think you'd get for about 50 million euros. I think Tchouaméni will go for about 50, 45. So I'd go Timber, Tchouaméni. I would get Lehmer from Leipzig, actually. Again, 1 year left on his contract. So I think Timber, Tchouameni and Lehmer you'd get for about 100 million. Which leaves me with another 100 because we will make about 50, 60 on sales and wages. So I think a net spend of 150 is about right. So I'd go Timber, Tchouameni, Lehmer. I'd do everything I could to get Nunez. I think Nunez is the best striker available. I don't know whether he might flop, but I think he's the best one available. So I'd go Nunez. And then I'd probably go for Nkunku, you know. I wouldn't mind Anthony, but I'd probably go Nkunku. So 2 Ajax players, actually. Shit. Two Ajax players and 2 Leipzig players and a Benfica player. But yeah, I'd be happy with that. Timber, Tchouameni, Lehmer, Nkunku, Nunez. I'd be happy with that, yeah. And if possible, can I get a right back and I'll buy Lamptey or Spence? Bring back Donny as an 8 or 10 or double pivot, says Joey. Of course, we have got Donny coming back. Yeah, people forget about that. We'll see. But the exciting thing is we're not going to have those 5 players. We'll probably get very different players. And I think that's always an exciting summer. I mean, look at last summer. It was very exciting, but we knew for a long time it was Varane. We knew all summer it was Sancho. And Ronaldo was very exciting at the end. But my favourite summer that we've had with United was the summer when we remember that summer when we got like Schneiderlin and Schumacher, Schweinsteiger and Schneiderlin. And these players were just popping up all the time. So I think that'll be good. Anyway, look, I could talk and talk and talk. It's match day tomorrow, and actually I'm quite looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it more than I thought it was going to be. Ten Hag, we know he's the manager. We need to get wins. We need to, I felt this season was flat. I did think it was flat. But my optimism and excitement about it now is based around the fact that I'm almost excited to get Europa League football. Now, I know that sounds sad, but we are in a bad situation, so it is sad. But I'm thinking about Ten Hag. I'm thinking about next season. I'm thinking about what's best for him, what's best for us, what's best for these players. And what's best for all of us is that we are playing in the Europa League, at least, because that's another path into the Champions League if we don't get it now. So the only way we're going to do that is by beating Norwich. So I almost feel like the season starts tomorrow, and I hope the players feel that way, because we need to win. We need to win tomorrow. We need to try and get something against Arsenal in a week. I don't think we'll get anything at Anfield, and then Brentford, and just to start acquiring enough points to get Europa League football, and then, you know, we start in the summer. So I'm looking forward to it. Can you check in on Ricky, Matic, Mata and Martial all to go? Oh, I know. Who will his new favourites be? We'll have to ask him on Sunday. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I will speak to you all tomorrow. Don't forget to tune in for the watch along. I will have Man City Liverpool on as well. Obviously, that's a big game on at the same time, more or less. I think it kicks off half an hour after us. But I really enjoyed the show tonight. Hope you're all having a good Easter if you're celebrating that. And I'll see you for the match tomorrow. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff in the UK, so we'll be live at about 2. Smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe. And I will speak to you all very soon. Cracking show. Really enjoy the Friday night show. Interactive Q&A. Thanks for everyone who's become a member. If you want to do that, click the join button. And I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.